nothing I shall want. Fresh and green are the pastures where He gives me repose. Near restful waters He leads me to revive my drooping spirit. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. Yes, the Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want.
Hi, I'm Father Byron Mendonca, sharing with you a reflection on the Gospel reading of the fourth Sunday of Easter, which is also known as the Good Shepherd Sunday. So let us listen to the Gospel passage, the Gospel of John chapter 10, verses 1 to 10. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. In him the gatekeeper opens, the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. This figure Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus again said to them, Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not heed them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Praise, praise, praise be to Jesus, now and evermore. All together. Praise, praise, praise be to Jesus, now and evermore. May the words of the gospel wipe away our sin and bring us to everlasting life. Amen. Of today's gospel, Jesus gives us an excellent imagery of the shepherd and the sheep. It was quite common to see in Palestine the shepherd taking a large flock of sheep to the green pastures, and so the disciples in a way could connect to what Jesus was trying to say in the imagery, but they could not entirely grasp exactly what the Lord was trying to convey to them, and it took some time. In the Old Testament, we also have the imagery of God as the shepherd and the people of Israel as the sheep or the flock. We sing so commonly, "The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want." It is taken from the Old Testament, from Psalm chapter 23. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. Another example we see in Psalm 79 verse 13. We are your people, the flock of your pasture, who give you thanks to you, Lord. So the flock are the people of Israel. God is seen as a shepherd, while also God has appointed human shepherds, that is prophets, priests and kings of the Old Testament, who would look after the sheep. And we have examples of people who are appointed by God as shepherds. There are a number of examples of the imagery of the shepherd, that is God, and the people of Israel are the flock. I gave you a few examples. to connect to what Jesus was trying to tell us. At the end of the day, the shepherd would call the sheep, and the sheep would recognize his voice and they would return towards the shepherd. If a stranger tried to call the sheep would not respond because they did not recognize that voice, that strange voice. In fact, they would flee from a stranger. H.V. Morton, a famous writer, shares his experience that near Bethlehem in a cave, 2 shepherds had sheltered their flocks, and he was wondering how could the flocks be sorted out. And so he observed that one of the shepherds would go at a distance and call out to his sheep, and those sheep that belonged to that shepherd responded to that particular call, and that's how the flocks were sorted out. Jesus gives an example of 2 kinds of sheepfolds. The first sheepfold, that is from verse 2 and verse 3, where the sheep are sheltered in a place which has a large door, and the guardian of the door has the key. The second sheepfold is that during the warm weather, the shepherds would take the sheep to the place in the hillside. They would spend the whole night there. They would not return home. They would shelter the sheep in an enclosed wall area which had only an opening. There was no door. And so the shepherd would lie down at that opening so that the sheep would not escape out through that opening. There was no door literally, but the shepherd became that door. And that's why Jesus said, I am the door to the sheepfold. That means no thief or no wild animal can come and destroy the flock while I am there. I am the gate to the sheepfold. I am the doors to the sheepfold. And therefore, that imagery where the shepherd lies down at that opening as if to become the door to the sheepfold. Jesus refers to those who came before him who were thieves and robbers. Who was he referring to? Was he referring to the prophets of the Old Testament? Absolutely not. Jesus was referring to those false messiahs who were promising the golden age to the people of Israel by bitterness and destruction. The way of Jesus was not by bitterness and destruction, but by the way of love. Jesus becomes the way to the Father, who is love. Jesus becomes the doorway to the Father. And therefore, when he says, I am the gate to the sheepfold, we pass through that way of Jesus to experience a super abundant life. I have come that you may have life in all its fullness. How do we achieve this super abundance of life? Is when we listen to that voice, we follow Christ, and we go through that way of Jesus, the way to the Father. And therefore, what do we take away from today's gospel? We have to listen to that voice, recognize the voice of the Lord, and follow him. To listen means not to listen to a false shepherd's voice, but to listen to the right voice. When we listen to the right voice, we will recognize it, and then we become his true disciples. We follow him. May we be his true disciple, recognizing the voice of the shepherd always in our lives, so that we may experience life in abundance. Amen.
Shepherd of my soul, I give you full control. Wherever you may lead, I will follow. I have made a choice to listen to your voice. Wherever you may lead, I will go. Be it in a quiet pasture or by a gentle breeze, the shepherd of my soul is by my side.